Tonight, we just sent a Texas-sized message to Washington. I said it in March, and I'll say it again now. Today, change was on the ballot, and change won.
President Donald Trump's favored candidate won a Senate primary runoff in Texas. That's where we're starting the 7 from the Washington Post. I'm Hannah Jewell. It's Wednesday, May 27th. Let's get you caught up with today's 7 stories. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is no stranger to scandals. He has faced allegations of corruption, financial malfeasance, and infidelity. But that didn't stop Republican primary voters from choosing him yesterday to be their candidate for Senate in November's midterm elections. Paxton was endorsed by President Trump and had the backing of the MAGA base. That propelled him to victory over 4-term Senator John Cornyn. This is the second time in less than 2 weeks that an incumbent Republican senator has lost his seat after Trump endorsed his opponent. In a victory speech last night, Paxton said he was honored to have Trump's support. He also painted his Democratic opponent, State Representative James Tallarico, as a radical.
This campaign is not about red versus blue. It's about so much more. My opponent is the most extreme radical the Democrats have ever nominated. He's even running a vegan campaign, whatever that is.
Tallarico responded to Paxton's victory in an interview with MS Now last night.
Well, Ken Paxton is morally unfit for office. He'll lie to you with a straight face. He's failed the character test. He's the most corrupt attorney general of our lifetime, and he puts the interests of himself over the laws of Texas.
Democrats have not won a statewide race in Texas since 1994. But Tallarico will benefit from his fundraising skill. He's raised more money in the first 3 months of the year than most Senate candidates raise in their entire campaigns. We asked 1,200 Americans what they dislike about Democrats and Republicans. That's number 2. In poll after poll, Americans have made it clear that they don't particularly like either political party. People say both parties are out of touch and disapprove of their leaders. But what exactly do Americans dislike about Republicans and Democrats? To find out, a Washington Post ABC News Ipsos poll asked more than 1,200 Americans to describe their biggest problems with each party. For Democrats, the 2 most common criticisms were that the party's positions are too liberal and that they are weak and don't do enough to stand up to President Trump. Trump also tops the list of complaints about the Republican Party, but not by an overwhelming margin. 12% of adults specifically cited Trump or loyalty to Trump when asked what they dislike most about the GOP. And 6% mentioned a Republican lack of concern for ordinary people and/or mentioned dishonesty, hypocrisy, and immorality. There is a lot to unpack from this poll, so to read more about our findings, follow the link in today's 7 newsletter. Number 3. The Trump administration is planning to make federal workers sign NDAs. According to a draft notice, a proposed government-wide non-disclosure agreement would bar federal workers from sharing confidential government information. The notice is pretty broad about what that means, going beyond typical classified and unclassified designations. And it cited a number of recent high-profile leaks to the media, including to the Washington Post. Before his presidency, Donald Trump for decades relied on NDAs as a weapon against criticism. Signatories include ex-wives, contestants in the reality TV show The Apprentice, and even campaign staffers. But critics of the proposal to implement them across government say it would violate the First Amendment. Number 4. The University of Florida is purging and replacing classes it says are woke. The Hamilton School for Classical and Civic Education at the University of Florida has grown dramatically in just a few years. Its classes focus on topics like America's founding and Western civilization. It is funded by tens of millions of dollars appropriated by the Florida legislature. It's part of a project by the state to counter what it considers woke liberal indoctrination at universities. A post-analysis found that the vast majority of readings assigned in several of its classes were by white men. Meanwhile, the university is downgrading classes like Introduction to Sociology, which covers issues related to inequality, race, and gender. That class will no longer count as one of the general education courses required for graduation. The university has also purged classes in the Women's Studies and African American Studies departments. This isn't only happening in Florida. 9 Republican-led states have created civic centers like the Hamilton School since 2017. Number 5. Summer is coming, but it might not feel like it just yet. If you live in the eastern U.S., you should expect some cooler than average temperatures to kick off June. From Boston to D.C., the temperature will stay at around the 60s and 70s by day and fall into the 40s and 50s at night. Very pleasant. In the West, though, high heat is forecast to build, especially in the Northwest. The heat is also forecast to move into the Midwest and the Plains, which is facing severe drought. Since dry ground heats up more easily, 100-degree heat will be more likely from Texas to the Dakotas. And parts of the South that have also been affected by drought may see more potential for flooding. This summer's weather trends will be affected by unusually warm ocean waters in the Gulf of Mexico and the Pacific. A predicted El Niño climate pattern could become one of the strongest on record. The U.S. men's soccer team revealed its roster for the World Cup. That's number 6. In just over 2 weeks, the biggest sporting event in the world will get underway in the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. Yesterday, U.S. coach Mauricio Pochettino whittled down a sprawling pool of players to confirm his 26-man World Cup squad. Some names will probably be familiar to you. Christian Pulisic enters this World Cup carrying the Captain America mantle. He has thrived at a higher level than any player in U.S. history. Winston McKennie is a star for Juventus. His skills in defense and offense make him one of America's most complete players. And my colleague Jamie, who's Scottish, insisted that I name-check Austin Trusty, who helped his club team Celtic to glory in the Scottish League this season. Jamie is rooting for Scotland. Poor guy. The U.S. will kick off its campaign against Paraguay on June 12th. Tough matchups against Turkey and Australia will follow. In our newsletter today, you can get to know all 26 squad members. And at number 7, we asked a pool guy whether Trump picked the right blue paint for the reflecting pool. In one of Trump's many efforts to leave his physical mark on the nation's capital, the body of water that stretches from the Lincoln Memorial to the Washington Monument is getting a makeover. The formerly gray basin of the reflecting pool is being repainted blue, specifically a shade of blue paint known as American flag blue. It's a darker and more solemn color than you might see at the bottom of a pool at a sandals resort. Nevertheless, those suing to stop the project say it has caused an aesthetic injury. Post reporter Maura Judkis went down to the National Mall to take a look at the work in progress. She noticed that the paint seems pretty patchy so far. She also reached out to a pool guy for his take, Steve Goodale, a Canadian who goes by Swimming Pool Steve online. Steve warned that darker colors tend to fade, but said that the choice does mean the reflecting pool will not end up looking like a swimming pool, as some critics have feared. That's because a dark swimming pool liner actually makes the water's surface more mirror-like. So perhaps the reflecting pool will still be a good place to reflect on the country. All right, you're all caught up. If I keep pointing you towards our newsletter, it's for a good reason. The 7 Morning Briefing is where you can find links to all the stories I talk about here on the podcast and much, much more. You can find a link to sign up in our show notes, or just Google The 7 from the Washington Post. It's quick, free, and lands in your inbox early every weekday morning. I'm Hannah Jewell. I'll meet you back here tomorrow.